Hello everyone, welcome to our class on territorial expansion. Today we're going to be working on the way in which the United States started expanding to the West. We're going to revise some of the topics we have already mentioned and go a little bit further in time and geographically too, always going west. This video is just an introduction. You will have this same presentation available for you so that then you can click on the interactive elements and read more about the topics. So when you go to the actual presentation, you will be able to click on the different sections of the map to revise some of the points we have already seen, and then to go deeper into others. So let's recap a bit. We saw that during colonial times, the British colonies went as far as the Appalachians here, but then after the French and Indian War, the whole, and the French left, all the territory beyond the Appalachians and until the Mississippi was acquired. And we studied in which way it was organized. Advancing in time and trying to make up this puzzle that the USA is, you will read then on your own by clicking here how Florida was obtained. Then we will discuss it in class, but by clicking here you will open a new page with the explanation of the events by which Florida, which remember was Spanish, was included into the nation. And this is 1819. Oh, before 1819, this is what we saw already. Louisiana purchased this whole territory, was acquired, was bought from Napoleon, right? In 1803, doubling the size of the nation and also changing the history of the country, because then there would be expansion of slavery in the south and lots of land available too in the north for the great amount of immigration that was coming already by this time to the USA. Now, so for by the 1820s, the United States of America will be up to here, and they will they will have their neighbor will be Mexico. Now we're going to go into this part. So these 2 points that are here to the west and the third one are the ones that we're going to be working on today. As regards Oregon, you are going to read in the text, but also if you click here, you can have more information. Now, don't go into this one yet, into the far west, because before going to the west, we must get to Texas first. And this is what we are going to deal with. Okay, this part is not included in your readings, so the source will be this talk. Now, the question is, how is it that Texas became part of the US? Well, by 1821, remember that all this was Spain, right? But in 1821, Mexico becomes independent from Spain. In the wave of revolutions that, in which our revolution in Argentina was included too. So Texas was a northern province of Mexico, just another province. And it was quite scarcely populated. So in order to attract settlers to its northern provinces, Mexico established a policy of fostering investment. So it's an actual invitation, right, for foreigners to come and settle in the province of Texas. Remember that the Texas, the J is pronounced X in Mexican. The people, the Americans that would come to Texas were called empresarios because they were in fact planters. Because if you think of the map and the geography, well, the planters, remember, that were already in the south, with still their slaves and their plantation economy, were invited to come along to Texas, to go west, where they were given free land, and the only conditions were for them to become Mexicans, to give up the American nationality, and convert to Catholicism, which they did. And by the late 1820s, there were many Texans that were really of American origin and with an American identity. They spoke English, and they had slaves. But they were doing really very good business. And Mexico was also profiting from this, because the province was being populated, and of course, more wealth is better for the country. Yes, here we have one of the first empresarios, Stephen Austin, who is remembered as the father of Texas. That's why today Austin is a very important city in Texas. Now, what happens? By the end of the decade, Texas is, as I said, becoming very prosperous, and Texans are becoming also too powerful for the taste of the central government in Mexico. So Mexico starts changing their policies as regards immigration, and they decide to put a limit to the power of these people, the Texans. So one of the first measures that they took was to abolish slavery in Mexico, including Texas, of course. But as we said, this was the basis of the economy of the province. So here we have the Texans and the Americans refused to free their slaves and evaded import duties. So they rebelled against this policy, by which Mexico answered by prohibiting further American immigration. So conflict began between this Mexican province and the central government. Now, let's see the escalation of this conflict. In 1834, there is a military coup, and General Santana, who becomes a dictator, and he will be very harsh on the Texans rebels. And he will send troops to Texas to crush the rebellion, these people that were already protesting against the policies, and even more so now that Mexico is not a democracy but a dictatorship. And we'll see that by 1836, the province of Texas declares independence, and war begins. Remember, as we said, we always say a declaration of independence doesn't mean that the war is over. It means that the war will continue, in fact. But this is interesting. Who do you think was going to help? Who was going to be the ally for this little province fighting for freedom? Well, you guessed well, the United States of America, a country with which all the Americans that were living in Texas and the Texans themselves had very strong links of identity, of economy, and also political interests, because many people in the United States, especially the Southerners, were thinking of annexing Texas as a state. Why not? Most of the people there were very similar to the rest of the southern states, and it was as we said, a very prosperous province. So the rebels fought quite bravely. There is a moment, remembered as El Alamo. We're going to discuss this in class. Oh, the picture's not here. Oh, here it is. This is a moment remembered in history because it is a big defeat for the rebels, but also a moment of bravery. And El Alamo will become a rallying cry for the Texas rebels. And they will say, remember the Alamo during the war to give themselves more courage, remembering the men who died at El Alamo in the hands of the Mexican army. Finally, in the same year, in 1836, General Sam Houston, that's why General Sam Houston defeats Santana. The rebels finally win. And I was going to say that Houston, of course, he will become also the first president of this republic, and he gives the name to the capital of the state. So, the War of Independence is won by the rebels, and Texas becomes a new republic, a new nation. Something very similar to what had happened with the United States and Britain. Very similar. Now, the first things they do when they become independent is to ask the U.S. for annexation. And we said that many people in the United States were interested in annexing Texas. More land, more business, no problem of, as I said a minute ago, no problem of identity or and nothing of the sort, because many of the people there were already very much attached to the United States. So the question of annexation is brought to Congress, of course, because Congress is the Congress of the United States of America is the only one that can approve the annexation of new territory. The president alone cannot do it, you know that. So, 1836, the United States Congress recognizes Texas as Texas independence as a new nation, but votes from annexation. Why do you think so? Why do you think that Congress says no? Think for a minute, ask yourself, you can pause the video. Before pausing the video, remember that Congress is not a monolithic group or with the same interest. Quite the contrary. We said that Congress is the place where the diverse sections of the nation fight for power. So let's ask ourselves what happened in Congress that time during the debates for annexation of Texas. Well, the problem was that if Texas was included into the Union, it would become a slave state, of course, a state where slavery was legal. And this will tip the balance between slave states and free states. And finally, well, the vote, they never got the votes. The people in the South, who were the ones who were pro-annexation, they never got the votes. So it was, annexation was rejected, and Texas becomes, in 1836, the Republic of Texas. It is the only state in continental USA that can proudly say that they have been a nation once. So they become a republic, they pass their own constitution, they have a first president, Sam Houston, and they start living life as an independent nation. So the nickname was the Lone Star Republic. Why? Because they do feel, remember that the flag of the United States is made up of stars and stripes. Each star symbolizes a state. Well, look at the flag of the Republic of Texas. They did see themselves as at heart as part of the USA. Even in their flag, they showed this. But they will have to wait for almost 10 years for annexation to finally takes place. And this will be, well, now it's your turn. The readings for this week are already posted here in Classroom. So you will be reading about that. So what were the circumstances that finally led to the annexation of Texas? This is very important for us because Texas is one of the biggest and most populous and more prosperous states in the nation. So the power of the state is even today very, very important. So by reading about the context of its annexation, we will learn about also a little bit about the identity of this very special state. And plus, we will be analyzing the period of American history that is remembered as the period of territorial expansion, which is the 1840s. And the 1840s is this moment when the US finally embraces the fact that going west is part of their own nature, and we have been talking about the idea of the frontier quite a lot, but this is the decade where more elements come into play, and we will be reading about a little bit about ideology, politics, and economy. After reading, we will ask you to do an online activity, yes, which is here in this same presentation, in the one you have posted. So when you click here, ideally, yes, here it is, you will be, first you have to do the reading, yes, because you will have to connect what you read about Manifest Destiny, which is the ideological justification for territorial expansion. The idea is then for you to go do this activity, this one, by clicking, you've got to ask yourself certain questions that appear here, right? Trying to connect what you read to this painting that is a very famous painting that is connected to the idea of Manifest Destiny. Then in class, we will be discussing those questions, but do them on your own because this will help you to connect the readings with the paintings and elaborating and doing things with the content you read is always a way in which we believe we can internalize knowledge by doing things with it. So See? This is the end of the video. We really hope that you can profit from it. So see you next time, people. Bye-bye.